The art scene in Brevard has been making news, fueled in part by a refocused mission for the Brevard Cultural Alliance. You may have heard about the surprising Art and Algorithms Festival in Titusville coming up on its second year. Last year, it blew away visitors with world-class digital art displays and a theme homegrown on the Space Coast. But the evolution has also brought its share of controversy to the Brevard Cultural Alliance. It has had to field uncomfortable questions about its use of funds from local tourism taxes. To learn more about art, funding, and urban renewal, I interviewed Neil Levine, Executive Director of the BCA, who didn't shrink from a single question. Watch. Neil, thank you so much for joining us in the studio here today. Let's talk about, first, some news that the Brevard Cultural Alliance made with a study about the impact of arts in Brevard County. I believe one of the key findings there was that 66 area arts organizations and events added more than $68 million to Brevard County's economy, which was an increase from the last time we looked at this, about 2 years ago, I believe. Why? What's going on?
Really interesting question. First of all, let me give some context to the answer. The arts are really important, and they're important for so many different reasons, but one of the reasons why the arts are important is they're an economic engine, and they contribute to the local economy in a significant manner. And most people don't realise that, and hadn't realised that for some time. So I've been here for 3 years, as you know. When I came here, the first thing I wanted to know was, where's the economic impact data? And we didn't have anything that was current. So we commissioned one, and that's the one to which you refer. A couple of years ago, EDC very kindly did that for us. 2 years down the road, we've commissioned another one. A company called Precipio did that for us, and they're staffed by professors from FIT, economists. And what's important about that is that we don't have an arts organisation measuring an arts organisation, which doesn't give people confidence in the results. And so we wanted something that was robust and something that validated the results. 66 organisations out of the sector, that's not the full sector, so this isn't the full picture. And yet this picture is extraordinary. Those 66 organisations had sales revenues of over $119 million. I'll say that again, over $119 million. And I've got a little crib sheet that you'll be able to use later. And they added $68.5 million to local GDP. This benefits everyone. The arts and cultural sector truly is an economic engine that's helping us grow out of the recession. So to the second part of your question, yes, we're emerging from the recession. It's a bit of a bumpy ride, but we can see that emergence. Now, arts and culture is all about discretionary spend. People choose whether they want to spend that or not. It's not like gas or taxes. It's a choice. And so as we see those revenues rise, we can see how people are starting to loosen the purse strings. The discretionary spend is increasing. The other thing that we should note is that the arts and cultural sector has proven very resilient. It's come through this recession solidly and is in a growth phase now.
What gets counted in terms of the dollars and cents here? I trust it means everything from somebody builds a sculpture and sells it to tickets sold for community theaters, that kind of thing. Is there anything else that I should be thinking about?
Excellent question. I do like your interview. The answer is a little complex if we delve into it. So without being too simplistic, let me explain it this way. For an economic impact study, we examine direct expenditure, indirect, and induced, those three elements. So let me give you some examples. Direct expenditure would be where my wife and I go to a theatre, we hand our money over for the tickets, and we take the tickets. That's direct revenue to them. Now, we go into the theatre, the curtains open, and we go, wow, that's because we suspended disbelief. Now, what's happened is they've taken our dollars, they've run out the back door to the local hardware store and bought paint and painted wonderful scenery. So that money they've spent in the hardware store, that's indirect impact. Now, the salesman at the hardware store has taken some of that money in his wages, and on his way home, he'll stop and buy some fruit and veg, and he pays the cashier in the checkout. She will get some of that as her wages, and that's an induced impact. Of course, she goes home, she pays her utility bills. And the interesting thing is the guy at the hardware store and the girl at the checkout don't even know what's on at the theatre. And so it ripples through the economy and benefits everyone.
Let's talk about what the Brevard Cultural Alliance does a little bit. I think traditionally it was almost a clearinghouse of money that came in from the bed tax that we charge on tourists, and then it would be redistributed out to every sort of organization to be spent on their own promotions and that sort of thing. You and the board of the Brevard Cultural Alliance, I understand, have gone through some change in the last year or two, rethinking the mission, refocusing what you do. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. The Brevard Cultural Alliance is a local arts agency, and in other parts of the world they're called an arts council, and they do much of the same thing. And the work of a local arts agency is to be a pretty robust advocate for the benefits that the arts bring to the community. They also work with other arts agencies throughout the state, and they work at a federal level as well. Their job is to be the professional umbrella organisation that represents the arts and cultural sector. So it would be the equivalent of perhaps you belong to a professional organisation as a journalist. I certainly belong to a couple of professional organisations, and so the local arts agencies are the professional organisation for artists and for the arts institutions. We've not stopped that. We continue to do that, and we're proud to represent all of the artists and institutions here. But we do so many things in so many areas, we had to make sense of it. And so we came up with 3 strategic priorities.
Okay.
And that's a test, because if it doesn't fit into one of the strategic priorities, it's background noise, and we can't focus on that. You see, we're a not-for-profit, and a not-for-profit actually means it's a business. We just use different metrics. So we have to run in a business-like way to actually succeed with our mission. And so our 3 strategic priorities are developing cultural destination, education, both in a formal setting and in the broader sense of that word, and sector sustainability, which means not just sustaining the sector, but growing the sector as well. So let me speak to a couple of those, and then I'll address your question directly.
Okay.
I do meander, I know. If we think about education, some stats for you to think about. We work in partnership with Brevard Public School, and through that partnership, we actually directly serve over 4,000 young people, and we do that in 30 schools. Interestingly, it's not all after-school finger painting. We've worked with the curriculum directors, and a lot of our programs are graded. They're in this classroom and they're graded. We've also worked to develop programs which are at the intersect of art and technology, which actually prepares young people to think about tomorrow's jobs in the creative economy. If we think about sector sustainability, we can also think about, we as the local arts agency have worked throughout the year with the other local arts agencies. We've done weekly conference calls, emails, letters, so on and so forth, to be robust advocates. And this year, it's a huge precedent. Our state grants to the arts organisations here in Brevard topped over $1 million. That's $1 million new dollars coming into the economy. And that's without precedent. That's huge. So we're delighted with that. And now we come to cultural destination. Cultural destination is fascinating because we talked about the economic impact study a moment ago. One of the other things that we find within the economic impact study is that there's an 80-20 split, and 80% of attendees are residents and 20% are visitors. Now, this is important. And the reason it's important is because the residents will spend on average $21, whereas the visitors spend on average over $50. That's almost twice as much. And it's a fresh dollar. Those are new dollars that come into our economy instead of recirculating the same dollars. So cultural destination is critically important to us. And in order to build cultural destination, we've taken several innovative initiatives forward, and those are in Titusville in the north of the county.
That's
and
the Art and Algorithms event that I wanted to ask you about today, correct?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes, yeah. And the other one is one we're just beginning in Palm Bay. And there's another little card, which is the 3 strategic priorities. And here's a card which is about art and algorithms. Would you like to talk about that now, or do you
Let's
have
do
other
that,
questions
because
first?
I thought that was a really innovative event. It's coming up October 3rd through 12th,
Yes.
so that, and I'm going to make sure that I get up there this year, because I heard nothing but great reviews of it in terms of people really being surprised, getting a lot out of it. You know, they went up there expecting there to be a little bit of here and there, and it wound up being a big event, you know, with a lot to see and experience, and they were excited about it. So I wanted to try to explain that a little bit to our viewers in case they might be interested, but it seems like this is the kind of thing you're talking about, growing arts in Brevard County by bringing in new dollars. Is that correct? So explain
It
it.
is.
Tell me about the
It
whole
is,
thing.
yeah, I'm delighted to see you so excited, and it kind of mirrors my excitement as well. Let me start by saying art and algorithms, this thing that I'm so tremendously excited about, is a concept that we've worked with the people in the north of the county. But Brevard Cultural Alliance, BCA, we didn't do it. We don't do it. It's what we call capacity building.
Okay.
So we're teaching local people how to do it, and in that way, it will continue, it will sustain, it will grow. And the other reason it will continue and sustain and grow is because we sat down with the local people. We did visioning days. We asked who they thought they were, and we examined the perception of others about who they are, because what we were trying to derive from that was their authentic identity. So I'll paraphrase, because I don't want to delve in this too deeply. The people in the north of the county we might think of as rocket engineers. I mean, they fly things into space. They're
Right.
aeronautical engineers, STEM, highly educated people.
Mars probes.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely, very exciting stuff. So in terms of paintings, it doesn't quite do it. It needs to be something that lends itself to that STEM mindset in terms of an algorithm that could sit behind the artwork. And so we slowly moved to arts in the digital domain, and we expressed that as a festival called Art and Algorithms. There are several reasons why it's a festival. First reason is because they don't have a lot of venues up there. They have the theatre up there, but not a lot of venues. So we work with what we have. And what we had was, because of the economy taking a hit when the manned space program stopped, we had a lot of vacant storefronts. And so we decided that the festival would be a walkable downtown festival, and we would turn all of those vacant stores into galleries featuring digital work. This would bring people into spaces they would never have gone into before, in the hope that they would rent or buy them, which would help kickstart the economy. So there's a little box there we needed to put a check in. We also agreed that when you do work of this nature, we need something that's of national or international note and import. It's no good having the local embroiderers guild, because they have one in Ohio. No one's going to come here to see that. So it's got to be fascinating work of national importance. And so we helped them with the programming. And in the one you referred to, the last one, we had Professor Richardson come in from Europe. He's distinguished by having the world's first PhD for holographic imagery.
Wow.
And he brought in a collection of holograms, and we think of holograms like that, but these holograms are the size of the wall, and they defy logic. They were absolutely devastating. And he came and he gave talks and lectures. The next stop for that exhibition was St. Petersburg in Russia, so world class. And then we had a film curator, a guy called Clifton Stewart, coming from Europe. He's a voting member of BAFTA, which is the European equivalent of the Oscars. He's also on faculty in 2 universities and a visiting professor in a 3rd university. He's a busy guy. And he brought us a festival of short films. Each short film was a Grand Prix film, an award-winning film, and there were 90 films from 70 countries that ran throughout the 10 days. Extraordinary.
Some of these are inside, some things are going up on walls, I remember.
Absolutely, yeah. So Clifton came in, and he's an award-winning screenwriter, and he did talks and lectures as well. The wall that you refer to was shocking for some people. It was absolutely fantastic. We commissioned a piece of three-dimensional work, and we used the side of the theatre to project it on. I mean, the whole side of the theatre. So it's almost a city block, 2 stories high, and you were dragged into this three-dimensional world. It began with a rocket factory, again resonance for those local people, and then dragged you through into a virtual reality. It was extraordinary. It was quite astonishing.
And you have a partnership with, or some kind of involvement with the University of Central Florida, correct? Where I know visual arts, simulation, digital arts is a big thing over there, and I know, having done some work with student journalists at UCF recently, they're interested in what might be going on over here. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have a partnership with UCF. We're delighted about that. We also have a partnership with FIT. We have a partnership with the University of Coventry in the UK, De Montfort University in Leicester, and last night I arranged a partnership with Cal Arts in California as well. We're really interested in young people. We're interested in their energy. We're interested in their view of the world, a different view of the world. And we're interested in preparing people for tomorrow's jobs. It's generally thought that within the next decade, Orlando will become a hub, technological hub. A lot of companies are leaving Silicon Valley, going across to Atlanta. Now they're thinking about Orlando. Weather's great, cost of living is good, and over the next 10 years, that will become a very important hub. So provoking people to think about these skill sets, provoking people to think about where they might be going over the next 10 years, we're helping prepare that ladder. That's very exciting for us.
I like the way it matches a type of, or a genre, or something, either that digital part, the algorithms, the technology, something in that area really feels it owns and they're proud of, with experimentation. And it makes this a cutting edge site. It becomes a big event, and in the process it helps with economic redevelopment to some degree. I just think I'm excited to see how this progresses in the future. It's something that Brevard County can be proud of if it continues to do well and attract all these people from all around the world. And so who else wants to get in on this? Sounds like Palm Bay is, and the BCA are teaming up for something interesting in the near future.
Absolutely, yes. And when we began the work with Titusville, I was talking to Commissioner Fisher, a tremendous community leader, and I described what we had managed to do earlier in my career in cities in the UK, and how we had used the arts as a lever for regeneration. And he listened to that and he said, we'd like one of those. So that was the beginning of that. And then people came to Art and Algorithms, amongst them the Mayor of Palm Bay and the Mayor of Cocoa Beach, and they looked at it, and the Mayor of Palm Bay said, we'd like one of those too. And so we've begun this initiative with Palm Bay. We're at the scoping end of this now. We're building our partnerships. And right now, what we're considering doing is using kinetic art. So kinetic art, a large piece of sculpture that respond to light, solar, to wind, to water, and they move. And they're absolutely fascinating in the way they move. And the reason we want to do this is because, again, it's a catalyst to provoke debate, and we want to provoke debate around the environment. And we want to think about aquaculture, farming, fish farming. We want to think about the ocean. We want to think about our natural environment. We want to think about ecology. Absolutely, yes. And so these huge pieces begin to speak to that and provoke that debate. And part of the initial outing will be a huge symposium, a conference. We're partnering with people who will bring in noted speakers, and ultimately perhaps will grow to a convention destination where people interested in this sort of conversation will be attracted to Palm Bay, will raise Palm Bay to the national agenda with respect to environmental issues, and it will also bring people here who will bring their wallets, and so it will help with economic regeneration as well. So that's the big picture, and we have lots and lots of partners who are helping us with that. Can I just go back to arts and algorithms and mention one partner that was really important? A partner that is really important is the National Endowment for the Arts. Now, the NEA is a federal organisation, a national organisation. They looked at what we were doing. They're absolutely fascinated that we were using the arts to focus, to be a nexus for the community, to get an engaged community, a vibrant community. They asked if we had another project that they may wish to fund. And so we spoke to this because I said we're really interested in streaming education through this as well. We spoke to them about a project that was dear to my heart, which was to get young people to do documentaries about social issues, about political issues, about issues of growing up, and to make documentaries on cell phones. And what we have done is we've got 10 young people from high schools here in Brevard. They have built teams around themselves of around 6 people. There are 60 kids beavering away. We've given them the cell phones. We've given them filmmakers to work with them. And they are shooting documentaries about things that are important to them. The filmmakers are working with them, teaching them transferable skills, so research, journalism, film shooting, post-production, sound, so on and so forth. And all of those will come together for a red carpet premiere screening at the next Art and Algorithms amongst all those award-winning films. And Boeing helped us fund that, and the NEA did. And this is the first time that Brevard has had an invitational bid from the NEA and a grant handed to us at Brevard for the work we're doing. So validated at a national level. It's fascinating and tremendously reassuring we're doing the right thing.
Anytime you go through a change like this, narrowing priorities, somebody winds up being on the inside, some people wind up losing, for lack of a better word. I know that there's been some friction over, can you use the money like that from the Tourist Development Council? Again, you're funded by what, I think a part of a penny from the bed tax that people pay. Talk a little bit about that. Who have you lost support from, and who have you gained support from since going through this whole thing?
Mm-hmm. It's been absolutely fascinating, and one of the things that I found, I'll use the word wonderful, quite wonderful, is so many people have stood up to support the work we do and to endorse us as individuals who are both qualified and experienced and taking Brevard down this path without losing sight of what we had been doing before. We're not neglecting the artist in his bedroom, we're not neglecting the theatre, we're not neglecting any of the things that we're supposed to be doing, but this is in addition, it's additionality. And so many people have stood up to applaud that. I'm actually humbled. We were at a recent TDC meeting where the TDC board endorsed what we were doing, and myself for leading that, and I was very touched by that. You know, it's change, and change is sometimes difficult for some people. I don't believe for a moment anyone's lost. As I say, it's additionality, so we continue to do what we always did. It's additionality, and some people have the fear that our focus has shifted and they're not getting the attention they had before.
Well, I think people that probably work for things like I know the Henniger Center director over there was concerned about, hey, wait a minute, you know, this is money that used to be spent on groups like us and the Symphony Orchestra, maybe the King Center to promote, that we would use to promote ourselves. Of course they're going to miss that if it doesn't, if it goes someplace else.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to cut across you. I'm delighted to be on your program because that's fundamentally flawed as an argument. It's just not true. I'll say it's not true again. You see, the money that is being argued about was never money used to promote any of those organisations. And this has been an argument that that particular lady has been mounting for 20 years. There's another pot of money which was used to promote those organisations, and that pot of money was given to each of those organisations to promote themselves. Before I arrived here, it was determined that if you put that bunch of money together and if you gave it to TDC with that superior buying power, buy millions of dollars of ads and billboards and TV, then the people who are being promoted would get a bigger bang for the buck. Okay. That's an Americanism, isn't it? I'm adopting Americanisms.
Well done.
And so 90% of those people are delighted. You talk to the Birding Festival, the largest festival of its kind in America. You talk to the Valiant Air Command. You talk to Brevard Zoo. They're all perfectly happy with this arrangement. But some people have a tin can and a stick and they're making a huge amount of noise. So that was the issue with the money for promotion. The money that's being argued about was never used for promotion at all. And so there's a misdirection to confuse people and try and win an argument. And in fact, the money that was being argued about, there was a request for a legal position. The county attorney has examined it and said that that money, which has been used for, gosh, I don't know how many years in this way, is both legal and appropriate. And so I'm delighted that we got that opinion. I'm delighted with the number of people who stood up for the work of BCA, and I still support the Hanukkah as an important part of the rich tapestry which is the cultural sector of Brevard. And we are robust advocates on their behalf. The BSO, which was mentioned, interestingly, is a participant in the Cultural Marketing Initiative, which is the money we just spoke about, as is all of the people to whom that director referred to. So they participate in the programs, and yet that particular director is saying they don't like the programs and they don't want to play.
Well, that's too bad. I could foresee them being a centerpiece of something like Arts and Algorithm, or you know, an event like that. You know, could fit in a very interesting way.
They're a tremendously important part of the arts and cultural sector, and the vibrancy that we offer for residents and visitors alike. And as such, we're delighted to support them. We really are.
Neil, thanks so much for joining us here today and explaining things.
Been a pleasure.
Well, that's our program. Thanks for joining us in the Florida Today newsroom. Remember, you can publish your reaction to this show or comment on anything you read in Florida Today. Just send an email to letters@floridatoday.com. I'm Matt Reed. We'll see you right here next Wednesday on WEFS TV and FloridaToday.com.